Empower to Integrate, a collaborative initiative by Aditus Foundation and the African Media Association Malta. This program is dedicated to advancing integration and social inclusion for third country nationals in Malta. It is funded by the Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund, co-funded by the European Union and carried out in collaboration with the Parliamentary Secretariat for European Funds.
Welcome to the Empower to Integrate project. This is a platform for third country nationals to boost their visibility, amplify their voices, and share their perspective. It also aims to strengthen community empowerment and build social ties in Malta. Hi, I'm Nazli Mayu, and I am the project lead strategist and a radio show host. Today we will be talking about raising children as individuals or collectively. The episode will explore the experiences of parenting and raising children in a cultural context different from one's own, including questions around identity, belonging, values, and navigating multiple cultural expectations as a parent. And joining me in the studio today is Parvina, Abduvakobova. Hi and welcome, Pavina.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
It's a pleasure. Pavina is from Pakistan and her children are Dutch. She has strong expertise as a human rights professional with over 15 years' experience in international settings, stakeholder engagement, and field-based settings. Her work reflects a commitment to advancing human rights, strengthening the rule of law, and supporting a resilient and inclusive justice system. She's also the founder of Justice Within, a platform which helps burnout recovery for humanitarian workers. She enjoys living in Malta with her children, where they find it to be very safe and are part of a supportive community for expats. Also joining me today is Lauren Ballester. Hello and welcome, Lauren.
Hi, thanks for having me here.
You're welcome. Lauren is a parent and children's life coach. She's the founder of Life Wizards Academy, creator of Life Hero program, an author and a podcast host. Her son was diagnosed with sensory processing disorder, which created a deep sense of urgency. To help her son cope and thrive, she felt that she needed to do something. After immigrating to Malta and following the global pandemic, they were faced with additional challenges as a family. She felt helpless, and without access to professional support for her son, she took matters into her own hands and developed practical strategies and tools with child-friendly approaches. This transformed her family's life, and its impact on her son inspired her to help other families build self-control, make better decisions, and manage emotions effectively. Pavina, could you share some of the positive aspects of living in Malta and how these have shaped your children's experiences growing up here?
Sure. First of all, I would like to say that Malta is a very safe place for children to grow up. It's because it's of size, my children feel safe to walk around the neighborhood as well as go to their extracurriculars. Sometimes my 13-year-old son, he takes his brother to football, which is completely safe, and I trust that they get without any problems. A second aspect I would like to mention is the weather. A lot of sunshine and ice cream makes children happy here, and they love it. And the third one, very important for me as a single parent, here is a community and neighborhood who help me a lot with children and childcare. Because I'm far away from my family and their dad lives in another country, I need a lot of support, and I'm very happy to have this community and friends who can just help take my kids when I need, and it's very easy to navigate because Malta is small. In general, I think it's very comfortable for kids to be in Malta as well as for parents.
Thank you for sharing that. And Lauren, how have you found living in Malta with your family?
It's been quite an amazing experience. When we first moved here, I felt like we were really welcomed with open arms. I find that the Maltese culture is really warm and welcoming, and our experience has been really positive from that point of view. And what Pavina said as well with regards to the safety, I really felt this huge sense of relief when I landed in Malta, coming from South Africa, where it's not so safe anymore to raise a family. Coming to Malta was really a relief from that point of view.
Thank you very much for both sharing. That safety has been quite paramount here, and that we have a warm welcome from the Maltese. And Pavina, how have your children responded to learning about a different culture, and what makes them feel proud about their own identity?
Mm-hmm. Well, my children used to live abroad. Before Malta, we lived in Georgia for a little bit, and the longest time of their life, we lived in Ukraine. So they quickly adapt to a new culture. They're very curious about new country, as well as it happened when we came to Malta. They were very curious about the culture, learning the heritage of Malta, history of Malta. And identity is a very complex question for my kids, because when you ask where are you from, they say, I have Dutch passport, but I don't speak Dutch, and I didn't live there. But I lived there, and I was born there. So, and I live in Malta. So I think children, being the creatures who live here and now, from which we should learn, they identify with the culture where they live in, because they have friends, schools, and the parents, obviously they make them local very quickly. And yeah, I think my children know a lot about Malta, more than other cultures where we live now. So, and yeah, I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Lauren, for parents who may not be familiar, could you help us understand more about your son who has sensory processing differences and what it looks like for a child?
Yeah, sure. So when he was 4 years old, that's when he was diagnosed with SPD, which stands for sensory processing disorder. And as a first-time mom at the time and a new mom, it was quite overwhelming and scary to hear that this was what was going on with him. But it gave us a good understanding of how he experienced his world. So basically what it is it's the way that the body interprets the senses. So for him specifically, this can be anything from touch, taste, sound, light. It could be anything. But for him specifically, it's tactile. So a simple task, for example, of putting on his shoes and socks, his body would interpret that as pain. So the mornings trying to get to school would be a big struggle. It would always seem like a big meltdown. And this was very stressful for all of us as a family, trying to get out the door in the morning. And it made me also, this is actually what led to what it is that I do, and how I learned to help him, is I realized that it's not just a physical thing, it's an emotional thing as well. And through this, he had actually developed an anxiety in anticipation of how he would wake up in the morning. Yeah, it was it's quite a thing. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Pavina, if I can ask you, how have you nurtured a sense of belonging for your children here in Malta, and whilst also wanting to keep your own cultural traditions and values at home?
That's a very good question. We respect the culture where we live in. Obviously, we kind of learn the traditions. My children learn about the holidays, public holidays, the history of holidays, history of Malta, to understand it better. And we celebrate Carnival. They enjoy a lot of holidays, public holidays here, obviously. And they know a lot from school as well, because they go to school visits to some heritage places. How do I preserve my own culture? Well, I cook my own national food at home. I tell them about it. They speak to grandparents. We celebrate our national holidays. And sometimes they have at school international days where they have to wear a national dress. So, and they have to bring the flags. So obviously my second one, he has belonging to Ukraine, and the Netherlands and Malta and Tajikistan, and he wants to present all these countries, and he brings the flags of all countries. So he's very cosmopolitan and international, and he loves it. So I really enjoy watching this multiculturalism in them.
Lauren, do you want to add to that? They're coming from South Africa in terms of managing the two different cultures.
Yes, of course. Well, interestingly enough, you mentioned the passport earlier, and my husband's actually Argentinian, so they've got an Argentinian passport as well. So they like to tell people that they're also from Argentina, and of course they're both avid footballers, so they love Messi, and they want to, they're very proud to have that as part of their heritage. But yeah, I mean, coming from South Africa, which is also multicultural, coming into Malta, where there's also a huge expat community, they've got friends from all over the world. Also, my eldest son, who plays a lot of football, has learned the Maltese language quite fluently. Oh, wow. And yes, it's really impressive. And so this really stands him strong in his social circles as well.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
to hear that there. And what has made the biggest difference for you in terms of helping your son feel included at school?
So, even though he's got this condition, I've always been very mindful not to label him, and I've never said to him, you have this thing, because as human beings, we really need to feel like we fit in and we belong. And he functions normally in those settings. So he's very intelligent, he does very well academically, he does very well in sport, and he's very good socially. It's just that sometimes getting out the house, he's okay now. This is something that we've worked on for many years. So beforehand, it was just having a sensory overload that would stop him from getting out of the house. But the tools that we've built together as a family have really helped him to cope and know how to show up in those moments for himself. And he has built an incredible amount of resilience and confidence in that way.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Do you have any tools that you might want to share with our audience?
Oh my gosh. I have many. I think the awareness is definitely something that's really important. And for us as parents, one of the most unhelpful emotions is guilt. I used to blame myself a lot for how he was. And I think that realizing that was not helpful to anybody was such an important realization. And knowing that we can help our kids by taking a moment to pause. In fact, the tool that I'd like to share is called the oxygen mask. And this is a really, really powerful metaphor. And basically, it's when you are on an airplane, for example, we've all probably been on an airplane at some point. When they're telling you the safety instructions, they ask you, they tell you if there's a loss of cabin pressure, the oxygen mask will drop down. Who do you put it on first? Yourself. Why? Because we can't help anybody else if we are not okay, if we're not breathing. So this metaphor tells us as a parent that when our kids are struggling or they're in a state that's unfavorable, that it's not about us. And what we need to do in that moment is put on that oxygen mask, and that gives us the opportunity to pause and then approach the situation from a place of nurture and love and connection. And that allows us to help them help themselves, so that it allows us to not be so triggered in those moments. So that's what happened in the days when my eldest would struggle to get ready for school, and we couldn't get him out the door, and we would be in a panic, he would be in a panic, and it was just like a huge mess. So when we were calm, the situation changes. We allow the process to take form, but we're not fueling it in that sense.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing that tool and tip with us. And Pavina, from your side, you mentioned that you're a single mom. You've got 2 boys that you're raising here in Malta. Are there any tips you can share with women who might be feeling, whether it's guilty feelings that they have, or just not managing, but that it's okay?
Yeah, it's okay not to be okay when you're a parent. It's the hardest job I think human being has ever done. And you learn about yourself every day while parenting. And I think one advice would be ask for help. always. And as a foreigners who are here far away from families often, I wouldn't survive without my support system. One of them is Lauren with her coaching. She's our family coach. And she helped me a lot in learning how to parent and how to accept kids as they are and help them to regulate themselves and also be aware. So yeah, I think asking for help is the best tool that the parent can do. Not I will do it all by myself and as a superhero, because we're already superheroes. And reaching out for help, actually, it's useful for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Would you want to add anything onto that in terms of helping moms?
Yeah, I love everything that you said, and it's so true. Giving our kids the power to know that they can be their own hero and really show up for themselves in that way is so important. And in fact, another tool that is really powerful, it's called the Hero's Diamond, and it's a spin-off of the drama triangle, so understanding what role we play and how we show up in our everyday lives. So it's the hero, the victim, the villain, and the shadow or the zero. So it's basically helping our kids get from zero to hero. And when we understand that we have the power to choose how we show up every day, and we take that level of accountability, even us as parents. The Hero's Diamond doesn't only apply to our kids, it applies to us as parents as well. When we understand what role we're playing and we understand that we can choose to step into any role, we can choose to step into our hero, that is so powerful, and it really helps us take back control of our journey.
Thank you very much for sharing that there with us. And Lauren, with you, what are some of the ways your children have adapted or are being supported while learning in a different cultural setting in a school environment?
We've been very lucky, I think, in terms of the school we go. My kids go to an excellent school. They are very inclusive and diverse, and they even host days where kids can bring their culture into the classroom. And I think that because of that, and also because there's quite a large expat community in their school as well, that they don't feel like foreigners. And I think that has helped them to adapt and make friends quite easily. And I think that it helps when the school is that way inclined as well. So I think that we've been very lucky and fortunate in that way, that the school has been so inclusive and welcoming in that sense.
Okay, thank you. And Pavina, are there any small changes teachers can make that have a big impact on children to also help them in creating an ideal inclusive school environment from your perspective?
Well, I'm not a fan of the word ideal. I think it's the enemy of good. So I think creating good enough environment where children can thrive, be creative, playful, is the best environment, rather than demanding and marks oriented, grades oriented, and lots of homework. Stressful environment is not the best for children, in my opinion, because there is a certain philosophy in children being children, playful. Creativity and playfulness gives a lot of mental health to everybody, and letting children be children without putting on them too much pressure from society or programs that we usually create unconsciously is the best thing that the teachers and parents can do for children.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And Lauren, have you been able to share any of your methodologies with teachers? Because they're also managing a big classroom with diverse children from all over the world coming to Malta.
Yes. In fact, I used to run a program as an extracurricular in one of the schools called Emotional Fitness. And I've passed on a lot of tools. I work with a lot of kids that have special needs as well, and a lot of those kids have LSEs, which are the learning support educators, and I have worked one-on-one with some of those educators to pass on the tools that I coach with to help them in the classroom setting. And I have a program as well called Classroom Heroes, which helps connect the classroom, build an emotional literacy in the classroom. And I think that the important thing is that we also recognize that teachers were never given these skills in the classroom, and so they're dealing with kids from all cultural backgrounds, emotional backgrounds, and it is really vast for them. And because they're there to deliver a curriculum, which is very academic, they weren't taught how to teach emotional skills or emotional regulation. So this is definitely something that I think there's awareness around it now, and I think teachers are going on programs and that to make it happen in the classroom. But I think that there can definitely be more focus on trying to find more space and time in a classroom setting to help build that regulation. And something that I've always said is that emotions don't discriminate, so it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're the teacher or the student, or it doesn't matter. We all have feelings, and understanding each other and building that common language in the classroom is so vital to our kids, for our kids' success. Is even academically, they need to be emotionally sound.
Thank you. And what about for the children who are introverts? How can we encourage them to be more expressive in terms of them not worried about being bullied by other children?
Sure, that is a loaded question. How much time do we have?
3 minutes.
So I think the important thing is that confidence doesn't always have to be loud. Confidence can be quiet, and sometimes kids that look introverted or that feel intimidated, they can also have the same skills. They just don't have to show up in a loud way. So I think the important thing for kids to know is that they always have a choice, no matter what situation they're facing. And if they can know that they have control over that, it changes the dynamic no matter what is in front of you. It's so powerful. I can elaborate if you have more time.
Well, I can ask Pavina, would you like to add anything to that situation in terms of raising your children if they want to express themselves in the school?
Yeah, I use Lauren's tools. I allow my children to be themselves. I'm raising two different children, completely different characters, and I'm learning to accept them both as they are. Very different characters. One is very introvert and he needs some space, he needs quiet time. The other one needs constant entertainment. So adapting under their needs and seeing every child as a different soul with different talents and perhaps life is very important, and also it creates a lot of confidence in them, I think. Yeah,
thank you for sharing that. And do you have any parting words to share with parents who may be new in Malta and how they can integrate within the Maltese society in terms of what's working well already for you?
How to meet other parents, or
what's working well for you? So if somebody's a new parent coming into Malta, I know you've already spoken about
there is a lot to explore from nature-wise, as well as international communities, parenting groups. I think it would be one of the things would be great to join some of the social media or other parenting groups where people, usually expats, they share a lot of tips, and then reaching out to local people, I think, is also the best to kind of get integrated into the community and culture. So I think both. Combining both is the best option. But I think it's very easy to learn things in Malta because of its size.
Yes, it's the benefit.
And you make friends quite quickly.
Quite quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And for yourself, Lauren, any positive experiences you want to share with anybody who may be coming to Malta as a parent?
Sure. I think to add to what Pavina's just said, it's your experience will be what you choose to make it. And how you choose to show up. So we decided when we moved here that this was going to be a positive experience for us, and that's how we chose to show up every day. So we didn't look for the negatives, we looked for the positives, we looked for the ways to make things work for us. And it was simple things like that, joining in communities, becoming more social. It was difficult for us because we hit a pandemic when we first moved here, so we went into lockdown, so we didn't always have that opportunity. But once those things had blown over, we joined the groups, and it really makes a difference when you can show up in that mindset.
Yeah, well, thank you very much to Pavina and Lauren for joining us today and sharing your experiences and expertise in terms of raising children in a different culture. Thank you very much, and thank you for tuning in and listening to us today. Thank you. Goodbye.
Empower to Integrate, a collaborative initiative by Aditos Foundation and the African Media Association Malta. This program is dedicated to advancing integration and social inclusion for third country nationals in Malta. It is funded by the Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund, co-funded by the European Union and carried out in collaboration with the Parliamentary Secretariat for European Funds.